Here to introduce one of our men of the hour, Martin Luther King III, is none other than the Congressman representing the 9th Congressional District of Texas, Congressman Al Green.
Thank you, everyone. It is now my honor to introduce a man whose name is synonymous with the civil rights, human rights movement. A man whose father stood here 57 years ago. A man who followed his father's footsteps, and I was there with him to India where he traced the steps of Gandhi. A man who understands that this is a full-time job. He's not a part-time freedom fighter. He's not an everyday freedom fighter. He's an all-the-time freedom fighter. I'm here to introduce a man who's a Morehouse graduate. A man who knows what it feels like to suffer the pains associated with the human rights movement. When he lost his father at the age of 10, he could have given up, but he didn't. He stayed in and he has fought the good fight. I'm here to introduce the Honorable Martin Luther King III. Would you show him some love, please? If you believe in liberty and justice laws, stand up and show him some love. If you believe in government of the people, by the people, stand up and show him some love. Show Martin some love. Show his father some love. His mother some love. His grandmother some love. His daughter Yolanda some love. Show them some love. God bless you. God bless the King family.
Good afternoon. I am so honored to be here. But before I say something, I want you to hear from the future of our nation, the only granddaughter of Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King, my daughter and Andrea's daughter, Yolanda Renee King.
Should I go read this? Okay. Some of you may remember that 2 years at the March for Our Lives, I said, spread the word. Have you heard? All across the nation, we are going to be a great generation. That was in 2018. I didn't know what would hit us in 2020. A pandemic that shut our schools and put our young lives on hold. More killings of unarmed black people by police. Attacks on our right to vote. The worst economic crisis since the Great Depression that we learned about in school. And more extreme weather than ever before. But great challenges produce great leaders. We have mastered the selfie and TikToks. Now we must master ourselves. Less than a year before he was assassinated, my grandfather predicted this very moment. He said that we were moving into a new phase of the struggle. The first phase was the civil rights, and the new phase is genuine equality. Genuine equality is why we are here today and why people are coming together all across the world, from New Zealand to New Jersey. He said that we must not forget the days of Montgomery. We must not forget the sit-ins movements. We must not forget the freedom rides, the Birmingham movement, and Selma. Papa King, we won't! My generation has already taken to the streets peacefully and with masks and socially distanced to fight, and that we will be the generation that moves from me to we. We are going to be the generation that dismantles systemic racism once and for all, now and forever. We are going to be the generation that calls a halt to police brutality and gun violence once and for all, now and forever. We are going to be the generation that reserves climate change and saves our planet once and for all, now and forever. And we are going to be the generation that ends poverty here in America, the wealthiest nation on earth, once and for all, now and forever. We are the great-grands of our grandparents, great-grandparents, and all our ancestors. We stand and march for love, and we will fulfill my grandfather's dream. So, show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. One last time. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Okay, then let's show them.
Proud dad. Let me thank God that we've been able to assemble today, and to thank Reverend Sharpton and the National Action Network and all of the conveners that actually are here today, and most of all, these families that have been impacted by police brutality and misconduct. So we've come to bear witness, to remain awake, to remember from where we've come, and to carefully consider where we're going. Whether you're here in person, online, or watching on MSNBC and other networks, thank you for joining us for this March on Washington. Together, we are taking a stand, and we're taking a giant step forward. Let me also thank Al Green for the very, very warm introduction, my dear friend. But we're taking a step forward on America's rocky but righteous journey towards justice. August 28th is a day to remember the triumphs and tragedies that have taken place in our historic struggle for racial justice. Today, we commemorate the March on Washington to jobs and freedom in 1963, where my father declared his dream. But we must never forget the American nightmare of racist violence exemplified when Emmett Till was murdered on this day in 1955, and the criminal justice system failed to convict his killers. 65 years later, we still struggle for justice, demilitarizing the police, dismantling mass incarceration, and declaring and determinedly as we can that Black lives matter. In our struggle for justice, there are no permanent victories. For on this day, 12 years ago, I was honored to address the Democratic National Convention in Denver. And on that night, on that evening in the Mile High City, our spirits were soaring as the Democrats nominated Barack Obama, who would go on to become the first African-American president of these United States. But the progress we celebrated then is imperiled yet again. And now we must march to the ballot box and the mailboxes to defend the freedoms that earlier generations worked so hard to win. In so many ways, we stand together today in the symbolic shadow of history. But we are making history together right now. We're marching with the largest and most active multi-generational, multiracial movement for civil rights since the 1960s. From high school students to senior citizens, black as well as white, Latino, Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islanders. Americans are marching together, many for the first time, and we're demanding real, lasting structural change. We're marching together for time-honored goals and in timely ways. We are courageous, but conscious of our health. We are socially distant, but spiritually united. We are masking our faces, but not our faith in freedom. And we are taking our struggle to the streets and to social media. The nation has never seen such a mighty movement, a modern day incarnation of what my father called the coalition of conscience. And if we move forward with purpose and passion, we will complete the work so boldly began in the 1960s. We're marching to overcome what my father called were the triple evils of poverty, racism, and violence. And today, those evils have exacerbated 4 major challenges that currently face our country. First, COVID-19 tragically has killed more than 175,000 Americans, disproportionately African American, and Latino and low-income people in every background. Second, more than 30 million Americans are unemployed again, disproportionately people of color. COVID-19 has laid bare the structural and racial inequalities in our economy that kept too many people trapped in the debt and poverty. Third, police brutality and gun violence are killing so many unarmed African Americans. Today, we march with their families and we say their names. George Floyd, Bohem Jean, Breonna Taylor, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Yusef Richardson, Terrence Crutcher, Trayvon Martin, Ahmaud Arbery, Elijah McClain, and so many others. And fourth, our voting rights are under attack. We must vigorously defend our right to vote because those rights were paid for with the blood of those lynched for seeking to exercise their constitutional rights. They were paid for with the blood of civil rights workers such as Sammy Young Jr., Goodman, Squirty, and Cheney, Jimmy Lee Jackson, Viola Luiso, James Reed. Those rights were paid for through the sacrifices made by heroes such as C.T. Vivian, Fannie Lou Hamer, Hosea Williams, and John Lewis. But since the United States Senate has failed to renew the Voting Rights Act, we have had to overcome a whole new trick bags of tactics to suppress our votes. Discriminatory voter ID requirements, cutbacks in early voting and vote by mail, voter purges targeting those who have missed several elections, and disenfranchising those who have served their time and paid their debt to the society. And now COVID-19 is making it dangerous, even deadly, to stand in line at polling places. We shouldn't have to risk our lives to cast our votes. We need to be able to do what President Trump does, vote safely by mail. But now we are struggling to overcome the dismantling of the U.S. Postal Service for the express purpose of suppressing our vote. With all these threats to our lives and liberties, our challenge is to use this moment to expand this movement, a movement that not only raises its voice, but casts its votes, pursues its vision, and makes lasting change. The scripture says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Our vision is best expressed by a phrase we must never forget. That is the beloved community. With those words, my father, John Lewis, Ella Baker, Rosa Parks, and so many other historic women and men envision an America whose dramatic practice is as good as its promise. An America where the triple evils of poverty, racism, and violence will be replaced by peace, justice, and shared abundance. And where hate and fear finally give way to help and love. To achieve that America, we need to raise our voices and cast our votes. Over the weeks ahead, culminating on Election Day, we need to vote as if our are more keenly aware of the risk of disenfranchisement than those who suffered from it. There's a knee upon the neck of democracy, and our nation can only live so long without the oxygen of freedom. The strength must be exercised by more than rhetoric and more than marching. The simple challenge before us is that everyone can cast a ballot, and everyone who can must cast a ballot. And that ballot that is cast must be counted, and the result must be transparent and known to the whole world. And so today, I can call everyone with the means to drive people to the polls, to make a plan for yourself, for your family and your neighbor, for those organizations and companies that care about democracy. I call on you today to offer your resources and your capacity to make sure every ballot is counted. If our forefathers were willing to die for the right to vote, we can work for the right to vote, and I will continue to call on you to act in the coming days. You know, my father was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, while standing in solidarity with poor working people, sanitation workers, whose slogans, "I am a man," was a statement that they were human beings with rights that should be respected and acknowledged. They were asking for safe working conditions, for a living wage, for recognition of their union, and for human dignity. They summed up their struggle with those 4 words, "I am a man." That simple but powerful slogan impairs movements today from Black Lives Matter to Fight for 15 and to the Me Too struggle against sexual harassment and abuse. Movements of marginalized Americans are still trying to claim the dignity they've been denied. Martin Luther King Jr. fought for the dignity of work, and that fight is never ending. In 1963, the March on Washington demanded jobs and freedom. In 1968, the Memphis sanitation strike workers and that demanded and the Poor People's Campaign insisted that working people should not live and live in poverty. Those fights foreshadow our struggle today to make the minimum wage a living wage, not a poverty wage. And we are fighting alongside the frontline workers, sanitation workers, healthcare workers, grocery workers, transport workers, food service workers, and so many more. They are praised for being essential, but they are treated as if they're expendable. While sanitation workers in Memphis, Dad said, so often we overlook the work and the significance of those who are not in professional jobs, of those who are not in the so-called big jobs. But let me say to you tonight that wherever you are or whenever you engage in work that serves humanity, and is for the building of humanity, it has dignity in work. Now we have a president who confesses greatness with grandiosity. But my father knew better. Everyone, he said, can be great because everyone can serve. He understood the human yearning for recognition. And in his famous speech, he explained that everyone wants to be a drum major, the leader of the marching band. And he challenged us to channel our drum major instinct into becoming drum majors for justice. While we honor our history, we must be a living movement, not a monument. If Dad were here today, I'm sure he would implore us not to deify him or selectively pull him when convenient. He would want us to be drama makers for justice, to champion the ideals he promoted, racial justice, social equality, and peace. And he would gently but intently challenge us not to dwell upon the past, but to live and labor in what he called the fierce urgency of now. So if you're looking for a savior, get up and find a mirror. We must become the heroes of the history we are making. And us means all of us. In 1963, after my father spoke, Bayard Rustin, the architect of the march, asked the participants to join in demanding that Congress pass strong civil rights and voting rights laws. More than half a century later, we must demand that the United States Senate stop blocking passage of the George Floyd Justice and Police Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Restoration Act. And so when we conclude today, let's remember that this is the commitment march in the spirit of 1963. I the police. Get involved with one or more of many worthwhile struggles in your community. And third, I ask you to pledge, as my father and John Lewis did, to get into good trouble and do it nonviolently. Remember that in the fight against injustice, nonviolence doesn't mean passive acceptance. It means peaceful resistance. We must come together and join with the Black Lives Movement to raise our voices and say enough is enough. We must come with the Poor People's Campaign, the Climate Change and Environmental Justice Movement, the Women's March and Me Too Movement, the Parkland students and March for Our Lives, and say enough is enough. Martin Luther King Jr. famously said that the moral arc of the universe is long but bends toward justice. But he was also the first to say that it doesn't bend on its own. We must do some work ourselves. In the final year of his life, he wrote in his last book, "Where do we go from here? Chaos or community?" Well, my sisters and brothers and dear friends, in this defining moment for our history and our country, we must answer Dr. King's question. Will our answer be chaos or community? I believe some have chosen the answer with chaos, including the current occupant in the White House today. But we who believe must choose community, because if we choose community, we can avoid watching the dream turn into a permanent nightmare. If we choose community, 50 years from now, people will say that we were able to redeem the soul of America and begin to fulfill the promise of democracy by systematically eliminating systematic racism and exploitation. My friends, if we choose community, we will be able to answer in the affirmative to the scripture. Here comes that dreamer. Come, let's slay him, and we shall see what will become of this dream. Finally, this afternoon, I want to say to you, not only do I come as a protester, but I come as a victim. My dad was killed when I was 10 years old. Done now, you know that by assassin's bullet. Some of you know but may not know. 6 years later, my daddy's mother, my grandmother, was gunned down in the church while playing the Lord's Prayer. So I understand what it means to lose a loved one. But I was so thankful that my grandfather and my mother and my aunts and uncles taught me about love. Because my daddy used to say, I refuse to allow any person to reduce me to hatred. The man that killed my lovely wife and the man that killed my son, I refuse to allow them even to reduce me to hatred. I love everybody. I'm every man's brother. If we're going to resolve these issues in America, we've got to come together. Dad talked about it in that sermon, Levels of Love. He talked about all of them. I'm only going to talk about the highest level of love. That love that seeks nothing in return. That love that is totally unselfish. You love someone if they're young, you love them if they're old. You love them if they're black, you love them if they're white. You love them if they're Asian, you love them if they're Hispanic, you love them if they're African, you love them if they're Asian. You love them because you know that God calls you to do that. Resolve all of these problems and crises in America. God has a way to do it. Thank you, God. And let's keep on.
Today, as Reverend Al Sharpton is my colleague, my friend, my author, professor, and my big brother. I arrived in East Flatbush, Brooklyn, New York in 1986 at age 18, having left when I was 2. It was an era when Black Lives Matter meant Michael Griffiths, Yusuf Hawkins, Sean Bell, Amadou Diallo, Patrick Dorisman, and Gavin Cato. It meant the Central Park Five and the replacement of New York City's first black mayor, David Dinkins, with Giuliani time. A stay away if you're black Bensonhurst and Howard Beach, and Reverend Al Sharpton, who was the only one who seemed to know what to do and who cared enough to do it. A generation earlier, it was Jesse Jackson, and before him, Dr. King. But for my generation, it was Reverend Al. Little did I know that many years later I would get to know Rev as a local producer and host on Radio 1, but he was our big national host. And that he would become my colleague at MSNBC and a great mentor, supporter, and friend. Meanwhile, the National Action Network has never stopped working, even as the names have changed to Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Sandra Bland, Tamir Rice, Freddie Gray, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Jacob Blake. I marched with Reverend Selma when he pulled me to the front of the line so that I could be there to witness history and John Lewis's second to last public appearance. And I've watched him nurture grieving families as they cry out for justice. He has marched on presidents and had presidents confide in him. He has inspired me to use my gifts to make real change. And he has been our backstop and our defender in dark times. We know that when we call him, he will be there and he will do something and cause something to be done. 57th anniversary march on Washington, please join me in saluting our defender and my big brother, Reverend Al Sharpton.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! What do we want? Justice! What do we want? Justice! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! 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 All right. 57 years ago, in 1963, there was a struggle in Birmingham, Alabama. There was the assassination of Red Harris, the head of the Mississippi NAACP, in the middle of struggle and murder. They came to Washington to demand that the federal government give them a Civil Rights Act and voting rights. They marched that day in a hot, blistering daylight today, saying that as we struggle, we need legislation. And they stayed on that movement until they got the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. They came young and old. They came from the South. Many of them couldn't stop on the road to use a bathroom because it was against the law, but they came anyhow. Many of them couldn't stop and eat in a restaurant. They had to put their sandwiches in a paper bag because no restaurant would serve them because it was against the law, but they came anyhow. Many of them couldn't rest in a motel overnight, but they came anyway because it was against the law for them to stop. Because they came in 63, we were able to come back in 2020, ride wherever we want to ride, stay in whatever hotels was available. They opened the door for us, but there's still some doors we have to open and some people we've got to straighten out. 2020, we must deal with police brutality. 2020, we must deal with those that want to rob our right to vote. And even though we're here in the midst of a pandemic, socially distancing, telling y'all to distance, and I'm keep saying spread out. We want to come to show with our bodies that enough is enough. When I was headed to George Floyd's funeral. I talked with Martin III, and I said, you know, maybe we need to go back to Washington. He said, well, let's talk it out, Reverend Al. As I was giving the eulogy, I announced this march. We didn't know how we were going to do it, how we were going to plan it, how many would come, but we did it. Why are we in Washington? I talked with one of the leading minds of our nation, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, and he told me that, Reverend Al, you got to understand that until there's federal legislation, every state will do what it wants to do. We have passed in the House of Representatives the George Floyd Policing and Justice Act. Now we need to pass that act in the Senate. We need Mitch McConnell and the U.S. Senate to meet on the George Floyd Policing and Justice Act, or we're going to meet you senators at the poll in November 3rd, whether we got to mail in, walk in, ride in, crawl in. We want our bill passed. Because we've had nothing to do. We come to let you know that we will come out like these numbers in the heat and stand in the heat, that we will stand in the polls all day long. They keep telling me about how it's a shame that black parents have to have the conversation with our children. How we have to explain that when a cop stops you, don't reach for the glove compartment, don't talk back, the conversation. Well, we've had the conversation for decades. It's time we have a conversation with America. We need to have a conversation about your racism, about your bigotry, about your hate, about how you would put your knee on our neck while we cry for our lives. We need a new conversation. Oh, we didn't come to stop so we can't stop so. You have to shoot us in the back. You have to put a choke on us while we scream out can't breathe the damn time. You have to hold the man down on the ground until you squeeze life out of him. at Lincoln's Memorial? Why didn't they go to the Jefferson Memorial? Why didn't they go to the Washington Monument? And he told me, you better understand, Reverend Al, 100 years before 63, 1963 was 1863. 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. He promised us full citizenship if we fought to save the Union. He promised us 40 acres and a mule. We never got the full citizenship. We never got the reparations. We come to Lincoln because you promised, Mr. Lincoln, and the promise has been broken. And we come, and Dr. King came 57 years ago to say we're tired of broken promises. Some say to me, Reverend Al, y'all ought to denounce those that get violent, those that are looting. All of the families have denounced looting. What we haven't heard is you denounce shooting. We will speak against the looting. But when will you speak against wrong police shooting? I remember Reverend Dr. Y.T. Walker sat, Reverend W. Franklin Richardson spoke today and sat us down and said that after the Montgomery boycott and they had gone to Albany, Georgia, and the movement stalled because in Albany they treated them with a certain kindness. They said they wanted to find someone that would demonstrate the raw disregard for rights. And as they did, they went all over the South. And Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth told them to come to Birmingham because there was a police chief there named Bull Connor. And Bull Connor would act in an insensitive and brutal way. Well, in 1963 and 1964, they fought Bull Connor. Here we are in 2020. We've gone from Bull Connor to Bull Trump. We've gone from a mean-spirited sheriff when he was acquitted for the murder of Trayvon Martin. 3 young genius sisters wrote the slogan Black Lives Matter. And it resonated. Why did it resonate? Because too long, you acted like we didn't matter.
Yeah.
They said, well, everybody matters, but everybody hasn't mattered the same in America. Reason we have, and still have to say Black Lives Matter, is because we get us health care like we don't matter. We go to jail longer for the same crime like we don't matter. We get poverty, unemployment, double than others like we don't matter. We treated with disrespect by policemen that we pay their salaries like we don't matter. So we think we let you know whether we call them soft, fat, or skinny, light skin, dark skin, Black Lives Matter. And we won't stop until it matters to everybody. Let the sister, if she want to hold up her fist, leave her alone. Let me say, as we hear from some of the victims, and as we get ready to march over to the King Memorial, 1963, Dr. King talked about he had a dream. Today, we heard from his heir and his son, Martin Luther King III, his beautiful wife, Andrea, and his granddaughter, Yolanda. And they are in the bloodline, the children and grandchildren of the dream. But we come in the same spiritual image. Because I want this country to know that even with your brutality, you can't rob us of our dreams. Your bigotry can't rob us of our dreams. Because we always had a dream beyond our circumstance. We always had a dream of being what we were not allowed to be. We are the dream keepers, which is why we come today black and white and all races and religion and sexual orientation to say this dream is still alive. You might kill the dreamer, but you can't kill the dream. Because truth comes to earth, shall rise again. We will rise, never to fall again. We will stand up, even when our legs are tired. We will make this dream come true. Let me say this. Let me say this as we close. I want everybody to be orderly. Let me say this. We all should leave here committed to keeping this dream alive. I want everybody that went to the website of National Action Network.net, nationalactionnetwork.net, that wants to help us on election day, be poll watchers, to protect our vote. I want you that will be signing up. Early voting starts in 2 weeks. We on a nonpartisan way want to put people all over this country. They want to suppress our vote. We've got to have foot soldiers that will protect the vote and that will be out there. And I want you to say to yourself that you could have been so much more. You had ideas and dreams, not only as a race, but as a person. But society had their knee on your neck. We could have developed and been as successful as others, but society had their knee on our neck. But we're not going to lay and submit no more. We're not going to take it. Some have different tactics, but we all are rising up. You're going to get your knee off our neck. If we got to march every day, if we got to vote every day, we will get your knee off our neck. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
All right. I want to bring up. I want y'all to back up. I want y'all to bring to my left is the mother of Breonna Taylor. Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name. Let us hear from Jamaica, the mother of Breonna Taylor.
Hi, everybody. First, I just want to thank everybody who's been in support of getting justice for Breonna Taylor. Second, I just want to, I got to thank Louisville, Until Freedom, my family, and most importantly, Kenneth Walker, for coming out here and continuing to say her name louder. What we need is change, and we're at a point where we can get that change, but we have to stand together, we have to vote.
No, not yet. We're getting closer though. As we close the gap,
We're in the middle by the water now.
the lake is right here.
Breonna Taylor.
So you're next. Oh, okay. I see the screen.
Say her name. Say her name. Say her name. All right, wait a minute. Shh. I brought Mr. Lincoln all of the broken promises. We all stopped when a man was killed with a knee on his head, narrating his own death on videotape that didn't know they were recording. But his death has been the impetus of a global movement. I bring you his brother, the brother of George Floyd, Fiona Strong.
Get my sister Bridget, my attorney, Tony Ramanucci, my wife, Keita, my sister Tanya, my nephew Brian. Okay. All right. I'm so overwhelmed right now with everybody here right now. Man. Hey, I wish George were here to see this right now. That's what I'm marching for. I'm marching for George, for Brianna, for Amara, for Jacob, for Pamela Turner, for Michael Brown, Trayvon, and anybody else who lost their lives are too evil. It's never been more clear than change right now. It's happening right now because we demand it. Everyone here has made a commitment because they wouldn't be here for no other reason right now. It's hot, and I know it's hot, but as of now, we here because we are being fried right now, man. As of now, everybody out here right now, our leaders, they need to follow us while we're marching to enact laws to protect us. Man.
few days ago, okay, wait. Come on, sister. Give a hand to Floyd's family as you get ready. Please have one seat. Now, a few days ago, I got a call and talked to a father whose son was shot in Kenosha, Wisconsin, 7 times in the back. While he was running into his car, policemen had the edge of his t-shirt. There was no weapon in his hand. There was no threat to the policeman. By law, a policeman should only use deadly force when they are under life extenuating circumstance. What could have been the circumstance when a man's running away from you? What could have been the circumstance when a man is trying to get in his car? Now they say that they have found a knife in his car. Well, did they examine the police to see if they had x-ray vision to see through the car door? When he shot him, he didn't know what was in the car. What he knew was that a black man seems to be expendable. And we come to say we are no longer expendable. We are going to demand justice. His mother and father are both here. His mother got a little heat exhaustion and is sitting in the tent. But I bring you the father of this young man who we are all rallying for. This is Jacob's daddy, who said to me, I'm gonna fight for my son. I'm gonna fight for justice. Let's welcome to the platform, Jacob C. Jacob Blake, say his name. Say his name. Say his name. Say his name.
I'm sorry.
His sister's gonna first speak for the mother, who's here in the tent.
America, unapologetically, I am here to tell you in front of the world that you got the right one. Hello? God has been preparing you. America, your reality is unreal. Catering to your delusions is no longer an option. We will not pretend. We will not be your docile slave. We will not be a footstool to oppression. Most of all, we will not dress up this genocide and boo and call it police brutality. We will only pledge allegiance to the truth. Black America, I hold you accountable. You must stand, you must fight, but not with violence and chaos. With self-love, learn to love yourself, Black people. Unify. Group economic Black men, stand up! Stand up, black men! Educate yourself and protect the black family units, period!
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Jacob Blake! Jacob Blake! Jacob Blake! There are two systems of justice in the United States. There's a white system and there's a black system. The black system ain't doing so well. But we're going to stand up. Every black person in the United States is going to stand up. We're tired. I'm tired of looking at cameras and seeing these young black and brown people suffer. We're going to hold court today. We're going to hold court on systematic racism. And so we're going to have court right now. Guilty! 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 Racism against all of us. Guilty! Guilty! Racism against Reverend Al. We find guilty! Racism against George Floyd. We find them guilty! Racism against Jacob. When I was 7 years old. How did I know I was going to meet this man again in these circumstances? I truly did not want to come and see y'all today for these reasons. My father was in town for the first march on D.C. I have a duty. I have a duty to support and understand each one. I love everybody in this crowd. I love you. If nobody told you today, Big J loves you. But we're going to stand up, baby. We're going to stand up together. I need your strength. Big Daddy's legs ain't that good anymore. I need your strength. No justice. No justice. I love y'all.